could have been there that Saturday morning, 22 years ago, sitting in my sofa with your feet up, relaxing. There I was at the dining room table, my eyes locked with hers. She's saying something to me that I knew was really serious and that I had to understand, but I didn't have a clue. She was sitting there saying something to me very, very seriously, and I was like, what are you saying? It was my mother-in-law. She was speaking Chinese, and I couldn't speak a word of Chinese. And my wife was sitting next to me at that dining room table. And my wife started to translate. My mother-in-law was telling me to go and learn Chinese. And I was like, no, I'm an English teacher. I don't want to learn Chinese. And my mother-in-law was like, but you came to my country. You should learn Chinese. My wife translated that. And so I sat there and thought about that for a little while. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to learn Chinese. But she said, if I go to your country, I will learn English. And I sat down and thought about it, and I guess she had a point. So the next Monday I went to Roosevelt Road, TLI, and I signed up for Chinese classes. We reached a consensus around the dining room table. I wish I could take you back 15 years ago to 2007. We were sitting at the same dining room table, my mother-in-law and myself, eyes locked in battle, and she was not very happy. But to understand why, you have to go back a few months. My father had planned to come to Taiwan for the very first time. My father likes to drink a beer or two. And I tell my mother-in-law when my father comes, you need to be aware that he likes to drink. And my mother-in-law told me, do not tell me things about your father like that. That is very rude. That's being a bad son. See? My mother-in-law is a very proper Taiwanese lady. Very proper. And she'll say, do not speak badly about your father. I say, he likes to drink. She said, do not speak badly about your father. Oh, you know, he likes to drink or two. So anyway, one day my father came to Taiwan. And on the last weekend here, they decided to take out my father and my stepmom for dinner. But before dinner, we went to the Brass Monkey to watch a rugby match. And my father had a couple of beers. We arrived at the restaurant, and my father had a few more beers with my father-in-law. Now remember what I told you about my mother-in-law. Very traditional Taiwanese lady. She doesn't want you to shake her hand. She's not like Iris, who likes to give you a hug. Hello, how are you? Very formal. Wonderful lady, but very formal. I've never hugged her. In the 22 years I've known her, I've never given her a hug. And my father kind of knew this, but anyway, my father had a few beers, and I was sitting at the table at the restaurant. My father got up, went to the bathroom, came back from the bathroom, looked at my mother-in-law, who was sitting opposite me, bent down and wrapped his giant arms around my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was looking at me, her eyes almost exploded, her mouth dropped, and if looks could kill, I'd be dead. The next morning I got this telephone call. Well, I'm coming to talk to you. Now my father had gone out with my stepmom for breakfast, and my mother-in-law comes marching into my house, and there we were, now I could speak some Chinese, sitting around the dining room table one more time. You know what she told me? Your father drinks too much. I said, no, I told you. We reached a consensus through evidence. My mother-in-law and I have always found a way to communicate, even though sometimes we are at odds with each other. We always generally get to the same kind of agreement about different things. It usually happened around the dining room table. But the last story I have to share with you happened between the first two stories. The first story was in 2000 when I just arrived in Taiwan. The second story was in 2007 and I've been here for a few years. But I wish I could have taken you back 20 years to 2002. My mother-in-law had phoned me and said, Paul, I'm coming to visit you. What do I do now, right? Because it's your mother-in-law, she's coming to visit you, and you must have done something wrong. And my mother-in-law came, knocked on the door, came inside the house, and there we were, once again, sitting around the dining room table, locked in battle, looking at each other. And my mother-in-law asked me a very simple question. When are you going to marry my daughter? I looked at her, I looked at my wife, we were sitting there as well, and I was like, what? When are you going to marry my daughter? Because at that point I'd been dating my wife for 2 years. And I looked at my mother-in-law and I said, there's a problem. And she said, what's the problem? I said, weddings cost a lot of money. And I can have a small wedding. I can go to get a certificate we can sign, but I can't afford a big banquet. My mother looked at me again and said, I will lend you the money. When are you marrying my daughter? This was January. I said, how about April? We reached the consensus once again around the dining room table. What I learned from these 3 things, and I suppose are the things that you could learn, is number 1, when you want to reach consensus with one person or a group, have a good dining room table. They're really good places where you feel comfortable, you know. But the point is that it was a place where we both felt safe. The second lesson is, mother-in-laws aren't that bad. All they want to do is just take care of their kids. Just listen to them, talk to them. And if you can talk to your mother-in-law, and you can reach consensus with your mother-in-law, you can probably reach consensus with anybody. I'm serious.
Even Doug?
Yeah, even Doug. But I think the most important lesson is actually when you want to reach consensus with someone, be willing to listen to them. Open your heart, open your mind. And as long as you're communicating in truth and in love, I guess people can actually understand each other. You can reach a point where you agree with each other, and you can reach a point of understanding. And so for me, whenever I want to reach consensus with everybody, rule number 1, have a good dining room table. Toastmasters of the day.